Be sure to go to flipsidegaming.com and use promo code 6 for 10% off on orders over $10. You can do the same at the Grizzly Gentleman for some fantastic beard products that'll make your beard look and smell great. You can also go to TCG Player using the affiliate link below and shop there to help support the show. And last but absolutely not least, go to greyvikinggames.com with the link below to get those sweet arena codes. What is up, Planeswalkers Theoric 6, back with some more Magic the Gathering stuff. So today, a lot of people showed interest in knowing my reasons for my bans for Brawl. Now, some of you might be confused, especially if you have not gone to the Discord. By the way, I have a Discord server, link in the description down below. And essentially what I have is I've attempted to curate a list of additional stipulations, bans, rules, what have you, so that Brawl can be more fun within my community. Now, obviously that's subjective, and I'm essentially being the arbiter of fun. But these bans and these rules are technically, I mean, they're essentially just suggestions, except for certain cases. Now, the cases are, if I'm streaming, or if I'm playing Brawl with y'all, I will adhere to this, unless I'm dumb and I forget something. But I also expect the people who are playing against me to utilize this, because I want to have fun, I want to make fun content. So that, I guess, is another reason I do this. Now, if you're looking to get some Brawl in with people, or literally any other games with real human people, you can go to my Discord, again, link in the description, go to the Fiora channel, and that's a place where you essentially can direct challenge people. And that's not just for arena formats either. You can use, standard, historic, Brawl, all that stuff. But, if this is for webcam EDH, you can meet up there looking for groups. You can also use third-party programs that may or may not exist and may or may not be used in my personal situation. Anyway, yeah, so these also aren't bans that are just informed by me. There are suggestion locations here, and on the player sheet, you can suggest bans and unbans, and you can give a reason. I would like you to let me know who you are, and periodically I'll double check this to see if there's any more commentary from the viewers, from the players, and I will attempt to incorporate my rationale for either upholding the ban or what have you in my section, which I'll get to in a moment. But yeah, on just the front of the ban, on the front of the player sheet, you have as commander, these things are banned. There are some exceptions, we'll get to those. And then in the 99, some things are banned. And we have some other rules and a watch list. So, before I dive into all these notes, go to my sheet. So this is my sheet. I edit this, and I essentially give my reason. I show the bans and the rules, and I give my reasons for those decisions. I also give a section over here on my thoughts of what could be done to mitigate those bans. So even down here, it says entries in the section describe potential complex bans which would limit the composition of the 99 in some way to alleviate my reason for banning. So let's see what the bannings are. We have Niv Mizzet Reborn. Niv Mizzet is generally a strong commander, and he suffers from what I call 5-color good stuff syndrome, or FCGSS. Now, Niv Mizzet decks, right, essentially can just play anything. And when you can just play anything, you're going to play just the best cards. And that is incredibly boring. And if you want to play a deck that is not just like the highest power you can build, but something that you like, it's more flavorful, it's more fun for you, then Niv Mizzet, you might as well just concede immediately. But what I want, in the community at least, is for people not to just concede immediately. I want people to have fun. So this card is banned. But, as I said, I have some thoughts. So, hopefully, I tried my best to make this Zoom good enough to read, but not too messed up. You know what? Can I change all of the fonts to Times? Curses. Control A. Times, please. I mean, that's so much easier for me to read. I don't know about you all. You know what? Let's make the font a little bigger. There we go. That looks better. Okay, cool. So, I'm open to having 2 restrictions for Niv. I find Niv Mizzet Reborn so powerful that I think this card would need 2 restrictions in order for me to unban it. All spells in the deck would have to be exactly 2 colors. What this means is you can't have monocolored cards. You can't have 3-colored cards. They have to be literally exactly 2 colors. That will limit the amount of powerful cards, but not exclude all of the powerful cards. Additionally, this one is just for more fun, from my perspective, is you have to have each of the guild's gates. So you don't have to be playing Mage's End, but you do have to make your mana best slightly worse, because the deck just refills way too easily, right? The ability for this deck to just play the absolute strongest cards, and then have no real issue, because you cast Niv, and you refill your hands, and you just keep casting the most powerful cards, means that the deck is real strong. And it's just insufferable to play against if you're trying to play with, you know, an aggro deck, or a mid-range deck that tries to do a bunch of things on board. You essentially have no choice. So yes, I have a potential there. Nicol Bolas Dragon God. I am sad about this, but this is literally why. Bolas as a commander, so no, this is just as commander. Bolas as a commander can invalidate other planeswalkers. Because of that, I have to ban Nicol Bolas to maintain meta diversity. If you're playing Nicol Bolas, sure, it's not terribly strong against normal like creature commanders, but if someone wants to play a, you know, Vraska Death Touch deck, I would, forgetting of course the fact that probably wouldn't be a very strong deck to begin with, but I can just keep killing your Vraska, and there's essentially nothing you can do about it, because I'm playing Bolas, I have access to Bolas at any time, and I have board wipes, so you're never going to kill my Bolas, right? So I just prefer it to have that. I don't even have reasons here, and when I don't have reasons here, it's just that I legitimately couldn't think of ways to mitigate this reason. Now, you could, I could theoretically, you know, screw it. Let's do some live editing, shall we? Yeah, you know, theoretically, we could rule that Bolas is -3, can never be used on a planeswalker commander. Now, the reason I say planeswalker commander specifically, and not just any commander, even though technically speaking this can just kill other legendary creature commanders, is because when you're playing a planeswalker commander, it can't attack. Right, the defense, well, unless it's like Gideon, but shut up. Generally speaking, it can't defend itself by attacking other planeswalkers. So maybe we can do that. I'm not entirely sure. Cody, same exactly is same exact thing. FCGSS. While it's on the field, you can't play permanent spells. That is not a sufficient restriction in my eyes. One of the other things I guess that I should have maybe put here is getting free spells is real strong. And I think technically Cody doesn't give free spells, but I think it gives you mana to cast those free spells. I don't remember exactly because discard. Now, I could make it so that you literally cannot play non-land permanents. So that literally all of the cards in your deck are sorceries and instants and lands. Could do that. Now, that seems very extreme, and I agree it is, which is why it's probably not going to happen, because then the people who are playing Cody probably just aren't going to enjoy playing it, so I'd rather them just not play it. Keenan, yeah, this should be very obvious. Civic Ramp is too powerful in 1v1. It is just too powerful. If we had multiplayer, pretty easily, I think that we'd be able to have Keenan be unbanned for multiplayer. But in 1v1, you just get so much value out of the Civic Ramp commanders that I had to ban this, especially considering Yeah, I'm taking steps to make it viable without being oppressive. Yeah, so this is talking about not McKinnon, but Civic Ramp. I'm trying to make it so that I'm taking out the most egregious parts, because I still want Civic Ramp to be playable, right? I still want that diversity there. I don't want it to be oppressive. So McKinnon is an issue because it's ramp and payoff, right? If it was just ramp, that'd be fine. Like if McKinnon's like just had that first blurb about doubling the non-land sources of mana, sure, whatever. It'd be very strong still. But the fact that you can use that mana on McKinnon to just get things makes it just too strong, in my opinion. Joda Archmage Eternal at this 5-color good stuff syndrome. I have considered one for this. Essentially, it's limiting the deck to historic, the card type. So essentially, you'd have to only play legendary cards or artifacts, and it's fitting, you know, with the whole Dominaria historic thing. And it doesn't seem too bad. The main issue there is just the fact that it would eliminate like a lot of like you can only ever play like Urza's Ruinous Blast and stuff like that. So you know what? I'll make a slight addendum here. Maybe spells that reference non-artifact historic cards. And the reason I say non-artifact there is just because there are just a ton of cards that reference artifacts, so you could probably get around the rest of the restriction pretty easily and just turn this into a 5-color good stuff with some historic stuff. So, but all of these are like, we'll see. Now, Omnath Locus of Creation. This essentially 5-color good stuff syndrome. You can play this if it's elemental tribal, and I have a specific rule for tribal decks. Sorry, I have a specific rule not for tribal decks, but for decks that are attempting to get around bans with tribal matters. You have to have at least 20 creatures, and all of those creatures must have that type. The reason for that is if I say except for elemental tribal, you could literally just play Omnath as essentially a ramp 5-color good stuff commander that only uses a few creatures that happen to be elementals. Then technically you're playing elemental tribal, but you're not. So that's why I have you have to play at least 20 creatures in a 100-card deck. That seems like a reasonable minimum to show that you're actually playing a creature deck, and they have to be elementals, and that legitimately seems fair to me. This has no other restrictions on the rest of the cards. Literally just you have to have some number, some decent number of elementals. Brawl, Chief of Compliance. Now, I've had people say that, and these were in the suggestions before this update. I've had people say that they felt that, one, taking away Brawl because it could be a counterspell commander is kind of lame for the people who want to build just like instant sorcery speed, cheaper commander, things like that. And two, that people aren't going to play Brawl as an oppressive card. That's not true. I have someone in the community who has, they don't play it because it's banned, but they, at least not against us, they absolutely show off playing it against other people. They have a Brawl deck that is essentially mono counterspell. And again, in my opinion, it's too oppressive in 1v1. And when I say oppressive, it doesn't necessarily mean that they win every game. It means that you're playing against this person and you're not really playing against them, at least for the first how many turns. If you're lucky to be playing a aggro deck that can get a creature down through the counterspells and somehow they don't have a blink of an eye or whatever, into the Royal even, then sure, congratulations, you can slowly whittle them down until they probably find one and continue holding up counter magic. But when you just have draw go, I'm going to counter you, oh, now I have enough mana to counterspell you and draw more cards, it's just boring. It's not fun, it's annoying, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so technically people can still build mono counterspell decks, but they can't use Brawl, which means its effectiveness should be, its effectiveness should be decreased. The aggro early game decks should be able to beat it now, because they can get under, because Brawl is fucking not expensive. Essica, God of the Tree. Yeah, this essentially is just Prismatic Bridge. Essica, it's blame Prismatic Bridge. Falcon Good Sub Syndrome. Well, one of the first things I thought of was like, just limit her to call time. She can play any call time cards, but they have to come from call time. And I was like, that means the deck can never grow with new sets. It can never change to be more interesting and stuff. So I thought, okay, if that's too excessive, limit only the legendary cards to call time, such that you can play the deck with anything, but they have to be from call time. I've also been given a player suggestion that it could be Oops All Gods tribal. So Esrica would have to have a minimum of 20 gods in the deck. Something like that might work. We have to figure it out. And I have a process for it, and I'll get to that. Then we go to Kenrith, 5-color Good Stuff Syndrome. One possibility for the limitation here is that every non-land permanent must have an activated ability that isn't a mana ability. Mind Stone would be fine, but not Arcane Signet, for example. Another example of a mana rock that would be fine would be the 2-mana dude, the golem thing that you have to pay 2 mana to make it become a 2/2. Like, that would also be fine, while, Mind Stone or Arcane Signet wouldn't. And the idea behind this is essentially, I'm tribalizing an aspect of permanence that isn't truly tribal. With this, though, I feel like only limiting it to 20 would be insufficient to limit Kenrith's overall power. Especially because you can kind of just pick and choose the cards that you're going to play already as the majority of the cards that fulfill this restriction. So I think it would have to be the entire restriction. That said, again, this would make it so that people might just play a bunch of really strong instant sorceries, but then you're not taking as much of advantage from Kenrith, I think, as you otherwise would, because Kenrith does have abilities that care about creatures. So I'm not entirely sure. It seems like a fun restriction. That's another thing that I've tried to do with these suggestions for making the card unbannable with this complex ban. Is I want the card to be used, but in a way that isn't boring, too powerful, annoying, whatever. And I want them to be interesting. I want them to be different. Giganta, she is banned because Falcon Good Stuff. I think maybe the companion requirement would be sufficient to balance it as a commander. Essentially saying that you can't have literally any cards in the deck that has double pips. So you couldn't play the 4-mana Kaladesh Chandra, but you could play let's see. Gosh dang it. There's a 4-mana Chandra that's only not Dominaria Chandra. Frick. Magic Origin Chandra? I don't remember. No, we don't have origins. It's the one where she's a teenager, she's 4 mana. You know what I'm talking about. You could play that one, right? Maybe that's sufficient. If not, you could require that they all have a color. No, all cards could require a color, yeah. So then, like, you couldn't also have colorless cards at all, so, like, no artifact ramp. That seems a little excessive. I feel like this would be a sufficient thing. Golos, Tireless Brigham, recently banned in Commander. 5-color Good Stuff, I have nothing. This card is probably going to stay banned. Tazri, Beacon of Unity, except for Party Tribal. And what I mean by Party Tribal is an ally or party mechanic class. So you can't get cheeky and say, but party was Cleric, Warrior, Wizard, and Rogue. Yeah. It was like, but Warlock is a D&D party? No. Go away. I think having her banned, except for specifically Party Tribal, is fine. Whoops. For Sliver, you'll notice that this doesn't say except for Sliver Tribal. Casting spells for free is nuts. Casting I think the cards that are like banned the most frequently are ones that just circumvent the general mana ability, mana requirement. The one big thing that balances cards in Magic the Gathering, the mana requirement. Casting spells for free circumvents that completely. Especially in 1v1. If this were a 4-color format, I think I just unban First Sliver. I probably would still make it a Sliver tribal deck, but I don't even think I'd have to codify that, just because, like, why are you playing First Sliver and, like, no other Slivers? Like, that seems stupid. I guess you play, like, First Sliver and a bunch of, like, weird cloning effects, but... Oh, wait, no, because that's on cast. Yeah, no, I have no idea why you do this. Yeah, so I even if there was a similar tribal restriction, I feel the deck could just still do too many absurd things, because you just get free. I think losing out on cards that aren't Slivers, Changelings, or directly referencing creature type might be too harsh, but it's my first idea. What this means is, I thought that maybe cards that either are Slivers, or Changelings, or directly reference creature type. So, this could be a specific creature type, so it's referencing Slivers or Changelings, or it can be, you know, rally the ranks, you know, as the center of the battlefield, choose a creature type. Or Pyre of Heroes, so you can still play Pyre of Heroes. I don't know if that's too harsh, because I like Slivers. I want people to be able to play Slivers. I don't want people to just be like, I've survived until turn 5. I played the first Sliver. I cascade into a 3-mana Sliver. I cascade into the 2-mana haste Sliver. Oh, you're dead now. Right? And I mean, that's just like Magical Christmas Land, but you just get so much value for free. Tiamat. Same as a lot of things. You have to be Dragon Tribal. Limiting her in the same way as Omnath and Tavri seems fair. At least 20 creatures, and they have to be dragons. The thing is, Tiamat does have a similar issue with Niv-Mizzet, so I am keeping an eye on Tiamat, right? You can cast a bunch of things. Your hand is empty. You play Tiamat. Your hand is full, right? The fact that you can only get dragons there, and dragons generally are pretty expensive, makes me think that this should be fine. Uro, this card. Civic Ramp appears to be too foul. I essentially had the same text here as I did with McKinnon, because it's true. Uro may not provide the payoff option that McKinnon has, so I said McKinnon had ramp and payoff. But this has ramp and essentially like life gain. You have ramp and a way to maintain your health, which is what one of the strongest things against ramp is aggro, right? You go under their ramp, you kill them before they get a chance to play their powerful cards. This makes it so you don't have to care as much about killing the things. Go away. Fucking boring clicks. Yeah, this card is just stupid. In multiplayer, the thing is, I said this would be fine in multiplayer. By the way, this is the 8-mana one, not the hasty one. I said this would be fine in multiplayer, but I'm not even sure if it necessarily would. 1v1, no. It doubles your mana, and it makes it so your opponent is cut off like half of his turns. Essentially, you're giving them Slaking's garbage truant ability, right? Right. I didn't put this here, but the main reason this is banned is because it's green. So as a commander, having it too consistently means that you can just ramp this out, and you'll always have Vorinclex to play, and even like just its immediate ability of when your opponent taps lands, they're screwed over. That immediately is too strong. I don't think I've banned this in the 99. I think I've only banned it because of the consistency that it has in the as a commander. And we have essentially the same thing. This is a green commander that can just come out too early and too consistently, and snowballs while not sacrificing board presence. Yes, you can lose lands by using your 3/3s as blockers, but you're playing mono green, you're ramping. I doubt you have an issue with losing a land here or there. Ugin the Spirit Dragon. This is the 8-mana Ugin. Colorless has very few actual options in Age Brawl. I still do want Colorless to be playable. But this Ugin being at the head means that essentially you can ramp and always have him to wipe the board, right? You essentially are able to just go artifact, artifact, artifact on turn like 5. Technically you could do it, I think, on turn 4. But turn 5, 6, 7, very consistently, you play Ugin, you don't care at all essentially what your opponent has played, you wipe their board, you probably still have an Ugin, and now you have a ton of mana and a thing that is lightning bolting things, right? So it's just too consistent. I want colorless ramp and combo decks to still be viable, but I think that this is just it just answered everything, right? And since you have access to it whenever, you get to just not play it if you don't want to until you need it. So it's just a no for me. In the 99, you will notice a theme. Alrund's Epiphany. Extra turns in 1v1 are miserable. I want people to play the game. What that means is, yes, technically speaking, there's only so many extra turn effects. Since it's 1v1, one person will legitimately be playing less Magic than the other person. I don't like that. I don't want that to happen. Again, if this was multiplayer, I'd probably be fine with Epiphany. Extra turns are still annoying in multiplayer. I personally don't like them, but it's not something that I tell people like, hey, if you're playing extra turns, I'm just not going to play with you, or hey, can you take extra turn cards out of your deck? I'm not playing against them, okay? Like, no, I'm a little annoyed when they get cast. I try to mitigate that as much as possible by, beating the crap out of them before they get a chance to use them. But in 1v1, it's just not it, man. Agent of Treachery. This card is too abusable. Having your commander stolen sucks. That's all that matters to me. That's all that matters. Too abusable, can be cloned, it can be flickered, yada yada yada. Even if they change the text to fit the other text, there's still ways to just do stupid things. And again, having your commander specifically stolen sucks, because I like when EDH decks, commander decks, whatever, you actively use their commander, right? I like when your commander is an integral part of your strategy. I know technically, so my belief is that you should be able to play your deck without your commander, but your deck should be much better with your commander. So it's good, it's playable, it can work. Without it, with it, it's popping off, it's doing its thing. That's my belief, and I want people to be able to pop off. Mass manipulation. This literally hasn't been an issue because I haven't seen it played. But no, the main reason for this is I'm cutting this off from essentially Civic Ramp. Being able to just ramp and just do nothing to the board for 5 turns and then stealing everything your opponent has done. No, just no. Nope. I don't want it. And this is who shakes the world. So she's on a reverse watch list. So I have a watch list that's coming up. I'll talk about that as well. But she's definitely too good and too consistent as a commander. Just having access to her that fast, that easily, too good, for sure. She might be fine in the 99, now that the 99 is the 99. So what I mean by that is, when Brawl was just a 60-card format, she was still pretty consistent to see. You're going to see her a lot. As a ramp player, you're going to essentially be going through your cards a lot, especially a Civic Ramp player. So it was still too consistent, too easy to find her. But since it's 99, it's less likely that you're going to find her very early and consistently. So maybe she's fine. So she's on a reverse watch list. You might be confused as to how I monitor a reverse watch list. I think I talk about that at some point. Do I talk about it here? Oh, yeah. Entries in the section describe potential rules, limits to alleviate the issues I may have with the card. I have no limits. I've not thought of any limits for any of these cards. They all just seem too strong. Field of the Dead, except for Zombie Tribal. You shouldn't be getting free wins in 5-color decks. I know technically I banned a lot of 5-color decks, but still, you shouldn't be able to just have a land that is banned in other formats just beat the crap out of you. Right? It's more difficult to deal with. There are land destruction cards in the format, but forcing people to play Field of the Dead is not great. There's Ghost Quarter. Dedicating 2 slots to board to land destruction when this is the only real target that matters. There are creature lands. There are the castles. There are a bunch of different utility lands. None of them are really need to be destroyed the same way that Field of the Dead does. So I think that you gotta have it in Zombie Tribal only. Yeah, it essentially just gives it a reason to be in the deck. Where the hell am I? Oh no, I've absolutely still banned Vorinclex in the 99. It's ramp and locking, high end and ramp comes down earlier. Yep. So essentially like, oh yeah, this costs 8, but it doesn't cost 8. You know, it's coming down before that. Yeah, this is also something that can push out higher cost cards. So I mean, this is an 8 mana card, but like you can just play this card. And it means that if you're going to play a high mana card, you're gonna play this. There's no option, there's no choice, right? It's just like you play the best thing. So, hey, look, Karn's Temporal Sundering. This is even worse. I understand that you have to have a legend out. That is not hard in a format where you always have access to a legend. It bounces something and gives you an extra turn. So it's very similar to like double extra turn, right? Like if I spend turn 5, I'm on the draw. I spend turn 5 casting my commander, for example. Then my opponent untaps. They already have their commander. Maybe they cast that on turn 5. They untap. They cast this. I've lost my entire 5th turn because everything I did that turn essentially didn't happen except I drew a card, I guess. And my opponent gets another turn. Right? It's nuts. It's dumb. It's stupid. I don't like it. Omniscience. It's free. Like I understand that this is a 10 mana card, 7 trip blue, I think. But that, again, can be super mitigated, especially in Civic Ramp. Just know. I should know that not all of these bans are because they're super commonly played or because when they're played, they immediately win the game. It's because in the case where they are played, they make the game... Gosh, what is... When Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn, was banned from Commander, they said something to the effect of, when this card is played, the entire game revolves around it. And things like Vorinclex, things like Omniscience, and Paradox Engine, which I'll get to in a second, when they resolve, even if they don't win on the spot, the game revolves around that card now. The player playing Omniscience is able to just play anything they want for free, and the player without Omniscience is desperately trying to find a way to blow up that Omniscience. And that is lame. Paradox Engine. I love playing Paradox Engine. I have it, or I had it, I removed it from my Ugin deck. It's broken. It's literally banned in Commander for a reason, and that is worse in 1v1. In multiplayer, it's not as bad because there's other players. You can't just... I mean, that's not true. It's not even true. Even it's exacerbated in 1v1. It's still a problem in multiplayer, which is why it was banned. This card is dumb. It functionally makes things free. It's dumb. Time Warp, it literally is just like 5 mana extra turn. Dumb. This is an extra turn that could just be a counterspell, but if my opponent casts their commander, it resolves, and I try to kill it, and they end the turn. Yes, that's just a counterspell, and it could have been any other counterspell, but the fact that they could have, on my upkeep, ended the turn, could be a Time Walk effect, is dumb, and I don't like it. Okay. No companions as companions. I mean, I put here that they thin the meta. To be honest, I just don't like companions. Like, I don't want every freaking deck to be running, oh hey, look, I'm in blue-white X color identity. I have a few things that benefit from like, oh right. I did forget, so this was actually, I had to be reminded of this, which I'm a little ashamed about. I did forget that the companion restrictions still apply, so you can't even use Yorion. You could use Luris, but I don't think that'd be very good. You know what? I might reevaluate this rule, and that's the thing. It's like, this is ever changing. Blah 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 blah. Oh, I guess technically that's another reason, is sideboard reasons. All the official bans, they're still in place. All this stuff, it's still banned in Brawl. I didn't want to have a weird, confusing thing. I don't think I need to share my reasoning with any of these cards. I will say that I wish this wasn't... I wish Companion was just banned in Brawl, and Lutri could be unbanned. Lutri is dying for all of her friends' sins. Everything else seems fine to just stay banned. Yeah. I mean, look, I love Demonic Tutor. It should still be banned. Yeah, it should. It really should. Empty sideboard. I do not like how sideboards act in singleton formats, providing extra utility and consistency to decks. In order to overcome the essential banning of wishboards and/or companions, petitioners must provide sufficient logic and evidence that the use of these features do not lead to repetition and distinct advantage. I will accept arguments for specific companions. So people can just give me, hey, I think that Lure should be unbanned because the companion restriction essentially means that, like, I have to be low to the ground, right? I can hear specific things. I'm also Kermit the Frog. I can hear specific arguments. That's fine. But to essentially just allow companions in general, I do still need to hear more things. Yeah, and again, in this section, like 2 or more people have to express these desire for changes, or a single patron YouTube member or Twitch sub, because money rules everything around me. Dollar bill, y'all. Oh, and yeah, I'd want it to be during a stream so that I can hear their argument as opposed to trying to read it, because you can't get all the context from that. This is my watch list. Oh, right. So this is my watch list, but first I'll talk about this. Companions are legal as everything but companions unless stated otherwise, so you can play Lursh in your deck, just not as a companion. Test trials. If you want to play with the cards on the watch list, you have to make sure your opponent is aware. They don't need to know which cards, but they just need to know that you're playing with watchlist cards, right? You could also just say, hey, I'm not playing with 6's dumb bans. Are you fine with that? They might be yes. They might be like, yes. And then you're like, all right, cool. But if you are playing with the general rules, let them know that you're playing watchlist cards. And then when you play with those cards, it would be great. This is a plea, let us know how it goes. I'd like to be aware of kind of the state of these cards. This is true for both the player of the cards and the opponent. I want to make the format fun for as many people as possible, so that does require feedback from people. I totally like that. Unban trials. If you want to play with ban cards, your opponent must know what those cards are. And you have to use the restrictions laid out in the section above. So if an opponent wants to play Joda, for example, they have to use this. If there are not thoughts on the banned commander, please let me know what method you would use to mitigate the reasons laid out in my decision solution. Additionally, it's highly recommended that both players let us know how the game went. So essentially, you're just like, yeah, I'm playing with a banned card. Let me know. I should note this is not like beforehand. It's not like you have to be like, me and this dude are gonna play. I'm playing with all of the time walk spells. I'm using this method. I can't think of a method because I don't think there is a method, frankly. And then you have to like wait for my okay. No, it's just like you just play with people. You communicate. You have like a rule 0 discussion essentially of like what are y'all looking for in the game. And then it's recommended that you let me know. And this essentially is the main path for Nissa, is the unbanned trials. So, as foretold, this has not been an issue. I'm watching it with all the rest of the non-banned mana cheaters. Those include Fires of Invention, Inroads and Reclamation, Mirari's Wake. I think, yeah, that's it. So I'm watching all 3 of these cards for essentially the same reason. They are functional mana cheaters. This lets you cast things for free, but only in a certain clip. This lets you cast things for free, but only at sorcery speed and only 2 at a time. And this one allows you to essentially play Civic Ramp or Civic Flash, and I hate you for that. But no, I mean, it lets you play stuff on your turn, a bunch of big sorceries, creatures, etc., and then you have the ability to play a bunch of instants and flash cards. And then, of course, you just can have access to Leyline of Anticipation and just be dumb and do annoying things. For Casualties of War, I've decided to whitelist this card. And the reason is because it could be too unfun. It's a strong card. It's a reasonable card. But if players are finding that the metagame overall is just boring or frustrating because, you know, I tried to play this really cool enchantment deck, so some of my creatures were enchantments, and so, you know, all my crap got blown the up. That there are feel bads, and I understand those feel bads, so it's here. And you might notice that I don't have the Mardu spell. What the fuck are those things called? Ultimatum. The Mardu Ultimatum. I don't have that on here because it's a lot harder to cast. Especially since it's in Mardu, right? Not exactly the color combination known for fixing. Mari's Wake. It's also a mana cheater. I hate this card because it straight up doubles mana, but it doesn't make things just free, so it's staying on the watch list for now. I had Embercleave banned because mostly because of the salt that I experienced with Embercleave in 60-card formats, but also because when Brawl was a 60-card format, it was too consistent and just killed people as if this were a normal format. But I've kept it on the watch list because this card. Oswald Fiddlebender as the commander. You can play Oswald in the 99. Oh, wait, no, I'm stupid, sorry. This is watch listed as a commander, right. Oswald is not banned currently as a commander. It's fully legal in the 99, but it's on the watch list in commander. My brain is broken, alright, I've apparently been talking for 45 minutes. With Paradox Engine banned, Oswald can maybe actually be a fun toolbox, instead of, I always get like this exact sequence of cards so that I can combo this exact way. You could still have a combo command, it can still be a combo commander, but it can require more moving pieces and more time, which would allow it to be disruptive. The fact that essentially you can get Paradox Engine, and then you can cast a thing, untap your mana rocks, and Oswald to sack another thing, is the big reason why Oswald plus Paradox Engine is just stupid. Paradox Engine alone is stupid, but Oswald being able to do that with it is also dumb. Overwhelming Splendor. Again, like Omniscience, this card can technically be put out earlier, but the effect is slightly less of an issue. The fact that your opponent still has the ability to cast their cards, and you still have to cast your cards and spend mana, means that even though their creatures are nothings, essentially, it's not as much of an issue. And I really need to stress the amount of slightly that I'm saying here. I could easily see this card being too oppressive in decks that can get them out super early. As an 8-mana card, probably is fine. Blade of Bridge. This can do stupid things in ramp decks, but it does cost a lot of mana to do. Like it's 6 mana to cast, 8 mana to activate. Without Paradox Engine, it's not as easy to abuse. It can probably still be abused, but it's not as easy. But I'm still watching it. Ugin the Spirit Dragon. So this is on the watch list in the 99. Yes. My brain is bad. It's on the watch list in the 99. This is unbanned for now because I think it's necessary to give colorless decks a chance at catching up on the board, but it needs to be monitored for how often it leads to a complete win reversal. So essentially what I'm saying is, colorless decks, by the nature of being colorless and not having access to any Eldrazi cards that are spells, Wizards, how bad would it be to give us some, Zendikar Rising? No, we had those cards. The freaking Oath of the Gatewatch and the one before it? After it? I don't remember. There have been too many sets. If we were able to get some of those, it'd be a lot less of an issue. But we don't have those. So essentially we're playing just artifact decks, some colorless cards, and no real way to interact. So, I mean, luckily Strixhaven gave us some colorless lesson cards, which does help. But I figured we still need access to some way to catch him on board, right? You can still die super easily in an artifact or a colorless deck. But if the situation is such that like the opponent was clearly winning, they for 100% they were winning. They had you dead to rights in 1 or 2 turns, and then you cast Ugin and you win the game. That's like a complete win reversal, and that has to be monitored. Forge of the Second Sun. Alternative win cons can be very contentious, but I haven't seen too many control decks for this to be an issue. If this becomes an issue, the sun will set. When I was writing this, I wanted to be a little dumb and poetic, so that's the way I wrote that. But essentially, like, I haven't really seen decks use this card. And I understand the frustration that some people have with alternate win conditions. You'll notice I have nothing on here about Fang Bearer, whatever. The green dude with Death Touch gives things Death Touch, or gives things with Death just poison, hitty, hurt. I don't have that on here because, frankly, I don't think it's too much of an issue. If you want to try to play a mono green poison or Death Touch deck, be my guest. It's not going to be as easy. And then if you want to just play a Death Touch deck in general, perhaps with Fresca, again, it's not going to be as easy, and now you don't have immediate access to the dude. I hate that I can see so many arts and not know the freaking names of cards. I can see the art near perfectly. I can see multiple arts of this in my brain, in my mind palace. Anyway, yeah, if it becomes too much of an issue, it's gone. Cataclysmic Gearhulk is essentially on here for the same as Casualties. I don't think it's as strong just because it is symmetrical, but it is more abusable in the fact that it's a creature and an artifact. Yeah, so it can potentially be super abused. So that's my reasoning behind all of the bans that I have in the Brawl format. Please let me know if you have not thought of any of these as being too busted, if you think I'm kind of just wrong. But also let me know why. And if there's cards that you think that I've just missed that are like stupid good and I haven't banned, again, let me know. I want to cultivate a fun format for as many people as possible. Some people, it does mean that some people aren't going to have fun. For example, people who want to play Brawl, counterspell, extra turns decks. They're not going to have fun because I've essentially said, you're not allowed to do that. It is how it is. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this thing. Bolas will come out tomorrow. I'm so upset that we don't get the cards until the 16th. Because, like, Bolas is on 15th. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. I'd like to thank my lovely patrons for the continued support. If you'd like to join them in supporting the show, you'll find links in the description down below. Do, of course, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff. Really does help me out. And until next time, all will be one.